All right, guys, welcome back to Hobson's Choice Harleys. Going to do a little review. We've been working on Seafoam and Chrome. We've had a lot of people watching the videos. We really appreciate the subscription rate and you guys watching and commenting. So believe it or not, this is Seafoam and Chrome. All that ugly green ninja crap went away. We didn't film any of this. It's kind of boring footage. This was 4 cans of degreaser, brake cleaner, sprayed every inch, got in here with a toothbrush, scrubbed the grease, the grime, buffed it all out. I actually did all the cleanup and the paint with the motor in the frame. I just masked the rockers off. I masked the case. We sprayed the frame. We sprayed the jugs. Once that was done, this is high heat paint. I had space heaters pointed at it to kind of cure the paint. Once that was all done, I reverse masked everything, and we actually did the aluminum bright spray on the cases. So it's a good look. It's not quite factory, but it sure cleaned up. So this is Seafoam and Chrome. She's on the way back together. On the other side, I was kind of asked a few questions, so I'll show you what we did over here. Basically, same thing. I mean, the rockers got cleaned up, everything got cleaned, degreased, painted the case, painted the rockers. And it was brought to my attention, most, or not most, but a lot of people don't realize this is a Ironhead Sportster. It's a 71 from 1957 through 71. The Sportsters were actually right-hand shift. So all your big twins is brake this side, shift the other side. In 1974, the US government mandated it. They all had to be the same, shifter on the other side. So 74 and older are right-hand shift, which is kind of cool machines. This one's got the stock shifting setup. A lot of them had forward conversion kits on it. This one doesn't. We like the bike. It's cool. It's cleaning up. I did get the new bearing cups in it. And if you see, these are now 1-inch Tinkham bearings. And they come with these adapter plates so that we can run any front end we want on there. I had mentioned in the other video about a 35 millimeter front end dual disc I had. Unfortunately, it fit the bike with the new bearing cups, but it did not like to play with the Invader front wheel. And that was going to go on this bike. So we're going to take a little break. We're going to go out in the carport or the machine side, the outside part of the shop. I'm going to review. I had taken that 33 millimeter off. I've got it all put together. It's actually sold. The guy's giving me some money to hold it for him. He's coming locally. He lives here locally. He's going to pick it up in the next week or two. So I wanted to show you what we did there, and then we're going to play a little bit more with Seafoam and Chrome today. Okay, so we're out on the carport side, guys. Here's that 33.5 millimeter with the hamburger wheel. I've had this hamburger wheel for a long time, which is cool to finally made it with the right front end. So this is a neat front end. The guy's putting it on actually a 71, just like Seafoam and Chrome, but he's trying to go stock with his. So that's a cool look. Over here is our stock 35 millimeter twin disc. This is actually off an FX bike. This is what I was going to run on Seafoam and Chrome, but like I said, that Invader just didn't work with it. So we've got a lot of these 35 millimeter front ends here at HCH, and we did get out here, and I've got all new shelving. I got everything organized. Lots of stuff here. If you know anybody needing 18-inch inner tubes, I've got cases of those. Got some big 220 wheels. I do have 4 Ultima rigid softail style frames. These are wide tire back end, 220 back end. They'll take an Evo, a shovel head, pan head, knuckle head, basically any big twin. I do have MSOs on these, so these are clean titled machines. And then more of the same. We've got fenders, we've got wheels, we've got fork sliders. You name it, there's lots of stuff here. So if you guys are looking for parts, give me a shout out. And that's about it out here. We're going to go back in the shop. Okay, guys, so this is what we decided to do for Seafoam and Chrome. This is a 4-over Moto Iron Springer front end. We're going to run this with that dual disc Invader. Probably just going to run one side. We only did one caliper, and that's why we went with the 1-inch bearing conversion kit, so we can put a big twin 4-over raked Springer on this machine.
What does 4-over mean?
Okay, so that was brought up. The 4-over is, it's from your bottom of your tree to the center of your axle. is 4 inches over stock. So, and that varies from manufacturer to manufacturer. So this is a Moto Iron. Moto Iron came from TC Brothers, little gratuitous plug. I've also brought front ends from, bear with me guys, Brow Customs and Throttle Addiction. So there's a lot of different front ends out there. The Moto Iron 4 over is from this point to center of axle is 27 inches. So they're calling 23 inches stock. On the knucklehead, 18 inches is 2 under, so 20 inches is stock. So stock is a relative term depending on the manufacturer. I went with a 4 over because I pulled the spec sheet off of TC Brothers for this front end because I needed from here to center 27 inches with a 21-inch wheel to give me the rake and length out here that I needed. So that's why we went through it. In a nutshell, that's not true with every front end. So a 4-inch Moto Iron versus a 4-inch Mid USA, for example, is not going to be the same length. So you always measure from center of axle to bottom of tree, and then you decide what length you want. So we're going to pull some of this apart, and we're going to see about putting this on the bike. So we're pulling the top tree off, and we're going to pull this nut off. Because it won't go through there. Boy, it's long-winded. So this is the first Moto Iron I've bought. I've gone through several Mid USAs, and this one's a little different. So right here, this whole stem comes out, which is, it's got a ridge right there. So if you look right here, it's ridged. The bottom of the tree is machined, and then there's an Allen key on the back. You can't see, I'll show it to you, that locks this in. I'm not sure if I'm a fan of that, to be honest, but that's what we got, so that's what we're going to go with. So we're going to see how this thing fits in here. Boy, that's a heavy front end. All right, let me kind of get some bolstering. We'll get back with you guys. All right, guys, we're back at it. We had a couple of technical difficulties with the camera and mics and stuff, and with the machine itself. So we were trying to stab this springer, and once I got it bolstered the way I wanted to and tried to fit the stem in the neck cups, the bottom and the top were kind of cattywampus, nowhere close to that. But what I ended up having to do is feed the neck up in there and crack it 2 or 3 times to kind of center everything. And we didn't get any of that on camera. I actually had to have the camera lady, my lovely wife, help me. We really had to fight with this. Once we got it in, we tightened this nut twice and it just sucked up like butter. Beautiful. So we're all greased, we're all in. We got the top tree in, it's torqued down. These are just 1/2-inch riser bolts. I just stuck them in there to make sure I didn't get anything down in the holes. I do have studs because I'll have to put studs here once we figure out the risers. The other thing that's a little cool, it just kind of is what it is, the fork stops, if you look here, the fork stops just don't quite line up. The tanks that were on this bike are actually those green tanks right there. That's the Seafoam and Chrome green Paco tanks that were made for this frame. Well, guess what? The Springer's fork leg hits the tanks. So those tanks are not going on here. We have actually got a Wassel style dished 3.5-gallon tank, chopper tank. It's going to be wicked cool on this bike. That should be in for, hopefully for the next video, we'll see. So just so you know, this video right now and the beginning of this video are a week apart. We ended up having all kinds of issues with you name it. So basically, here's what we got. I've got my front wheel here. I still need to set the bearings, and I've got to set the bearing races, and I did get my rear wheel back. So brand new tire, it's beautiful. It's got the interior spacer, exterior spacers, everything's beautiful. 30 years I've been paying my local independent guy to cut interior spacers, exterior spacers, do this stuff when I'm building bikes. And what we've done is I broke down and I bought a industrial sized metal lathe, and it's actually going in this corner. So if you can see, any of you guys have been watching the shop, the benches used to be here and cabinets, so all that stuff moved. I'm putting the lathe there, which gives me accessibility to clean up outside the door. And then over on this side of the shop, we've moved everything over here, got a lot more organization, which is cool. So my hope is, knock on wood, I never have to pay anybody to cut a spacer for me again. This axle was 1.5 inches too long, so I had to pay him to cut the axle down. I had to pay him to build that spacer, the spacer in the hub, and rethread this. Well, I've got the machine. I'm going day after tomorrow to pick it up. So in here, there will be a spacer in here with the bearing and the race on either side, and then there'll be the spacers out here. I can cut all those myself for the first time ever. Then I'm just paying to do the tire installation. That might actually be next, would be the tire machine. We don't know. So that's the direction we're going with all of this. The other couple things we did that were kind of off film, just me tinkering out here. You can see I'm playing with, got the foot pegs back on, playing with the brakes a little. So these brakes were actually mechanical drum brakes, and this frame is set up for hydraulics. So I'm actually going to fabricate a way to put the shovel head style master cylinder on here, because I do have the bracketry to put a hydraulic brake, on that Invader wheel. So this is going to have hydraulic brakes front and rear once we get around to it. The other thing we were panning on is on this side of the bike. We also were able to get the foot brake brackets on this side, got the pipes back in, kind of starting to look like a motorcycle. So we're liking it. And a lot of organization. It's amazing how productive you can be with organization. The absolute godsend for us this week is in my day job. I found this ancient, it's got to be close to 100-year-old little potbelly stove. And to have heat in the shop, game changer, game changer. I had these little space heaters and I'd stick one on either side of me and I'd freeze and my wrenches were cold and it was miserable. I've gotten more hours out here in the last week, not even a week, in the last 4 or 5 days since I installed this little wood stove. What a deal. And it's a little small. I had a great big one that just too much real estate. So this one sits nice in the corner, doesn't take up too much space, and it's warm and toasty out here. The other thing, if you watched the last video, there was a mention of a new Sportster. This is not the droid you're looking for, but this one did turn up, and this is a 74 right-hand shift Ironhead. This bike's a beast. It's a very cool machine, no front brakes, no way to put front brakes because the front end's so narrow. Super raked out, I don't know, it's probably 12 over. It is electric start, it is swing arm, so it does have some suspension, some really cool parts. And my mentor, my buddy Larry from Larry's Custom, he built this bike in the 70s. It's very cool. It's a very cool bike. I put a starter in it, put a solenoid in it. It runs, it rides, and because of the provenance on it, probably we aren't going to do much but get some ride footage on it. So this is not the droid you're looking for, but at the same time, cool bike, and we'll do some more videos on this piece too. So kickstart that like button, guys. We appreciate you watching, subscribing, and see you on the next one.